Everybody says OpenRouter is cheaper than going direct. I spent weeks trying to prove that right, and the pricing claim didn't survive contact with the actual fee structure. OpenRouter promises one API for 400 plus models, automatic failover, and lower costs, and the real question is whether those claims hold up when you put real numbers against them. One of the biggest problems I run into when using AI agents is turning their output into YouTube content I can actually use to market my product. That's why this video is sponsored by Subscriber, a tool that helps business owners connect their AI agents to YouTube and market their products without spending 10 hours every week creating content. You can connect Claude or ChatGPT directly to Subscriber. It then analyzes your business, website, and YouTube channel to help you create SEO-optimized video ideas, scripts, thumbnails, and even complete videos that actually match your brand. What I like most is that every week, Subscriber gives me a list of high-potential video ideas I can immediately execute, and it can even help edit videos for me, with or without my face, including videos like the one you're watching right now. It's easy to get started, and you can try Subscriber for free using the link in the description below. Now back to the video. Claim 1, automatic fallback never fails. So you've got a production pipeline running overnight, maybe a few hundred API calls, and your primary provider goes down at 2 a.m. with no alerts and no on-call engineer. The whole job stalls, and you wake up to 0 completions and a missed deadline. That's the exact scenario OpenRouter says it handles automatically. I looked at the vendor docs and independent reports, and the routing layer genuinely does monitor provider health and steer around outages automatically with no config needed. The catch, and it's a real one, is that edge cases like 429 rate limits and partial outputs still consume your credits before the retry kicks in, and if OpenRouter's own gateway goes down, every provider behind it goes dark with it. This charge gets dismissed. Failover is real, it's on by default, and it genuinely walks your fallback chain in order when a provider goes sideways. The single gateway risk is worth knowing, but the core claim delivers, so that's one of one holding up so far. I only caught that gateway risk because I've been living inside these routing layers long enough to hit it the hard way. Drop a comment if the single point of failure thing has burned you too. Claim 2, OpenRouter adds 20 to 100 milliseconds of latency on every call. That number is all over the forums, and if you're running a chatbot where response field matters, or chaining 5 model calls in a row, that overhead stacks up fast, because 100 milliseconds per hop across 5 calls is half a second of pure router tax before the model even thinks. I ran through an independent 200 call benchmark on GPT 4.1, and the part that got me was that OpenRouter actually came in 70 milliseconds faster on time to first token, 0.640 seconds versus 0.712 direct. Throughput was about 10% lower, 73.2 versus 81.8 tokens per second, which is a real trade-off, but the latency claim the forums keep repeating just isn't supported by the measured data. This charge gets dismissed too, and it's the most surprising one I found. The 20 to 100 milliseconds overhead claim is overstated. Real-world TTFT actually beat direct access in testing, and that's 2 of 2 claims, holding up with the latency story coming out better than I expected. Claim 3, users are reporting 3 to 6 tokens per second on GLM-5.2 through OpenRouter. That's basically unusable for anything interactive, because if you're trying to stream a long response, crawling at 3 tokens a second, you're looking at minutes for a single reply, and you're going to blame the router every time. I looked at the actual spec and the backend data, and GLM 5.2 is rated at 158 tokens per second, not 3 to 6. The real problem is that the same model across 6 different backends showed a roughly 10 times spread, with Cerebra is hitting 1,667 tokens per second, while Birgit came in at 174. So the slow speeds are a provider quality issue, not a router problem. Though OpenRouter's default routing can land you on a bad backend if you're not configuring it yourself. This charge sticks, but not for the reason you'd think. The complaint points at OpenRouter when the real culprit is backend selection, and OpenRouter doesn't protect you from landing on a slow one by default, which drops us to 2 of 3 claims holding up. Okay, so 2 claims holding and 1 sticking, but the 2 that are left are the ones that actually decide whether OpenRouter saves you money or costs you more, because pricing and model availability are still on the table. And depending on how those land, the convenience argument either stands or falls apart completely. Claim 4. OpenRouter is 5 to 50% cheaper than going direct. That's the headline claim and the reason most people sign up. Because if you're running $500 a month in API spend, a 5% discount is $25 back in your pocket, and a 50% discount is $250. So that promise is worth stress testing hard. Watch what happens when you look at the actual fee structure. OpenRouter passes through provider pricing with 0 per inference markup, which sounds great, but every credit purchase carries a 5.5% surcharge. Claude Opus 4.8 input matches Anthropic's rate exactly at $5 per $1 million tokens, and then you pay that surcharge on top of whatever you load in, so you're not 5 to 50% cheaper, you're more expensive than direct. This charge sticks, and it's the one that matters most. The 5 to 50% cheaper claim isn't supported by the evidence. The credit surcharge makes your actual spend higher than going direct, not lower, and that puts us at 2 of 4 claims holding up. Claim 5, Day 1 model availability, new models within 48 hours. That's a real selling point if you're trying to test the latest release the week it drops, because a 20-day lag means your competitor who went direct is already shipping with the new model while you're still waiting for it to show up in the catalog. I looked at the July 2026 onboarding data, and OpenRouter added 10 new model families in 22 days, about one every 2.2 days, which is genuinely fast. The honest caveat is that Day 1 is rare in practice. Longcat 2.0 lagged 20 days, and HI3 Preview flipped from free to paid in 48 hours. So the speed is real, but the guarantee isn't. This charge gets dismissed because the onboarding pace is genuinely fast, even if the 48-hour guarantee is more marketing than reality. The safer read is, you'll get access soon, not always first, and the final tally lands at 3 of 5 claims holding up. Alright, so where does OpenRouter genuinely shine? Failover is real and on by default with no extra config. TTFT beat direct access by 70 meters in independent testing on GPT 4.1. New models arrive fast, roughly one every 2.2 days. And there's 0 per inference markup. Whatever the provider charges, that's what you pay. And where does it fall short? The credit surcharge makes your actual spend higher than direct, not lower. Throughput runs about 10% below direct access in benchmarks. Day 1 model access is rare, with lags of up to 20 days documented, and the gateway itself is a single point of failure for anything running in production. 3 of 5 charges dismissed. Use OpenRouter if you want one key, automatic failover, and fast model access without juggling multiple accounts. Skip it if every dollar counts because that credit surcharge is real and it never goes away. And the convenience is only worth it until your spend gets high enough that it starts to hurt. Now, here's something the marketing page doesn't mention. If you go over 1 million tokens a month and bring your own key, OpenRouter still charges a 5% BYOK fee on top. So the escape hatch most power users assume exists kicks in at a lower rate, but it doesn't disappear, and you should check the BYOK tier before you assume you've opted out of the platform fee entirely. So if you're routing through OpenRouter to hit GLM 5.2, and you want to know whether that model is actually worth the trouble on its own terms, I did a full breakdown called GLM 5.2, Is It Worth Using? And it goes deep on the speed and quality numbers you'd actually care about before committing to it.